Working with text in PowerPoint is very, very easy. And in its most basic form, all you need to do is click the Insert tab and then choose Text Box. And then you just draw out a box in which you can type. So I can now type something like 1 day program. And you can edit your text in one of two ways. Whilst this text box is active, so you see I get this flashing cursor and the border here is this dotted line. If I make any changes, you're not going to see anything happening. I'm changing the size, I could change the color, and that's because I don't have any of this text highlighted. But I could, for example, just highlight the word 1, and then only whatever is actually highlighted is going to be affected. So that can be useful if you want different words to have different colors, or just one word to be underlined, etc., etc. If, however, you want to affect all the text inside a text box, a better way to work is going to be to actually you can click this border, or you can click off this option. And where you see I have this solid border, I haven't actually selected any of this text. If I want to select this text, I just hover over it until I get this little cursor icon, and that would select the text. With this border option open, PowerPoint is looking at this as one whole object as opposed to just one piece of this text. So now any changes I make are going to affect all of this text. So I could change the font. You can increase the size here and decrease it, or just change this numerical value. You have options like bold, italic, and underlined. You can give text a strike through. Bear in mind, with a crazy font like this, a strike through might not work. Normally that's going to go right through the middle. You can give it a shadow, and we can see that better if I just increase the size of the text. You can change the case. Again, this font only has uppercase, but with a normal font you could change it to any of these options. You can use this button to change the amount of spacing between each character. So if you click the more spacing button, you can actually choose exactly what amount you want. But it's probably easier to just do something like very tight, and then it just squishes everything together. And note over here that you can click this little button to clear all formatting. So if I click this, you are just going to go back to Arial, black, size 18, plain text with no formatting at all. You can also do things like change the text direction. So I could change this to going up and down, and then you'll need to just drag this out, and you have text going that way. You can align text in various ways. So this is, as opposed to your left and middle, this is in the actual box. How's it going to align? You of course have all of these options, so you can align center, right, etc., etc. You can click on this bullet icon to bullet your text, or you can number it. So in this case, if I was to now click in here and start typing something else, then we see that you're going to get your numbers that are going to come in. You can click any particular line and you can increase the indent. And this works much the same way as Microsoft Word text, where we now have a second level, and so that's number 1 of the first level in, or level 2. And if you were to put the cursor into this particular indented number, and then click on this down pointing arrow next to these numbers and go bullets and numbering, you can see which level, which type of numbering you want to use. So at this point it's a bit confusing because we have 1 and then we're using the same style here. But if I change this to something like A, then we have 1A, and anything that we indented further, so this is B, but if we indent this even more, we now have level 3, and that of course is also going to be A. So if I click this and go bullets and numbering, we can change it to something like a Roman numeral, and so you can have these kind of levels that go. You can change the amount of spacing between the lines. So right now it's 1. If I set that to 1.5, you see we get a little bit more spacing between the lines. And if I want that to affect all of the text and not just the line that I'm on, if I undo that, once again I want to make sure that I'm working with the whole text object. And there you see we get the extra spacing between all of the lines. And as far as basic text formatting goes, that's really all there is to it. You can also go to the Format tab, and here you can change the text outline and the text fill. So text outline, we can change it to something like this. Well, let's change it to black. And text fill, you'll see I can't change. That's probably because I'm working in compatibility mode, so that's just something you want to watch out for. You can change the shape fill, so that is your actual text box. And you can do various other things. So working with text is very easy in its basic form, and that's really all that there is to it. In addition to being able to type your own text in PowerPoint, you can bring in text from pretty much any other application. So if, for example, I go Insert Text Box, I can draw a nice big text box like that, and then I can go over to Firefox, where I've just highlighted a whole lot of this lorem ipsum text, and I can go Control-C to copy it, and then I can just go Control-V to paste it in there. And as you can see at this stage, there's a lot of text and it's quite big, so it's not all going to fit. So what I can do is now just format it in exactly the same way. So I click the border, so the border is solid and I'm dealing with this object. And I can now just begin to decrease the size. And I could change the font to something that looks a little bit better, like maybe Myriad Pro. And I could, for example, change this to Justified, which might look a little better, you never really know. And you can do stuff like just space out your paragraphs, etc., etc. And that's going to work absolutely fine, and it's a much better way to work if you've got a lot of text, because something like Microsoft Word is going to do a lot better with typing and getting a hold of text like this formatted. One other cool option you can use if we have this object selected is you can choose how many columns you want. And at first it's very difficult to see where these columns are actually dividing because there's no space between them, but if you just click this little down pointing arrow and go more columns, here you could increase the number of columns, but you can also increase the spacing. So if I increase this to, say, 0.5 of an inch, then you get a nice big set of spacing. So that's a good way to work with lots and lots of text, and if you want something you could have even more columns. You could do something like 4 columns. And so you get this kind of like newspaper effect. So if you can find a use for that, then that's great. And that's really all there is to using basic text, and the only other thing we need to see now is how to use word art.